Hi, I'm Pat Halpin, and welcome to this special Albany edition of Meet the Leaders. We're starting off the new year, and we've been joined by New York State Assemblyman Walter Mosley. Assemblyman, it's great to have you.
Thank you for having me, Pat.
Now, you represent Kings County, Brooklyn, for those of us who aren't from the city of New York, the
Correct.
5 boroughs. And you're now coming up on, what, your 4th year?
Correct.
So as a member who's got some...
My fourth term.
Fourth term, I take it back. So up on your 8th year, you'll be starting your 7th and 8th year. So you've got experience in this House, but now you have a Democratic Senate. It's been a while since we've had a Democratic Senate. How does that change from your point of view and your ability to more effectively serve your constituents?
Well, I think the one thing we have to take into consideration is that we should continue to work as hard as we've been working in previous years. Never to take anything for granted. Understanding we have a number of issues that have stalled over the past several years because of the dynamics and makeup of Albany. And
what comes to mind when you say those bills that passed the Assembly overwhelmingly, but didn't get any traction in the Senate?
So for my district, you're talking about strengthening our housing regulation laws. We're talking about the DREAM Act. We're talking about congestion pricing. We're talking about more funding for our public educational system statewide, not just only in the city. We're talking about healthcare, statewide universal healthcare for the indigent, the extremely indigent who need it the most. So those are a number of issues that I believe will be addressed immediately. But at the same time, we can't take for granted just because we have very similar or like-minded individuals in the upper house as well as here in the Assembly that we don't continue to work as diligent and as feverish as we've done in the past. That's something that my colleagues and I have talked about in the past few days, and that we'll continue to work as hard, if not even harder, to get these things passed into law.
So for you, look, every member has got those big issues that you have to deal with and support, and all. You just mentioned most of them. But there are also particular things that you, as an individual member of the State Assembly, want focus on and are priorities for you in 2019. What are they?
Well, for me, it's criminal justice reform. As we've seen across the country, people have taken on new perspectives as how we decriminalize, our constituents, our very constituents we represent. And to me, I have a bill talking about the reform of probationary reform in an effort to bring down the prison population and jail population.
You're talking about getting rid of cash bail?
Well, cash bail, that's a possible. That's one part of it. Grand jury reform, which is another bill that I'm a prime sponsor on. All in an effort to see how we can have a smarter, more efficient, and more sustainable criminal justice system that's not built upon the backs of people who are poor, people who can't represent themselves, or find representation.
Or find quality representation as well. Of course, there's been a lot of discussion about the legalization of recreational marijuana, and a key component of that is social justice. And a lot of, I think most people feel that it's important that records be expunged.
Correct.
I heard a statistic that if you look at the numbers of people who've been arrested for cannabis-related crimes, over 80% of people who are black and brown. I mean, it's a remarkable, startling number. So do you see that as an opportunity to really advance criminal justice reform?
Passing the MRTA, the Marijuana Regulation Taxation Act, a major component of that, the low-hanging fruit, we believe, as a member of the conference and its caucus, is to deal with our criminal justice matter, particularly those that led to arrests and summonses issued where people are actually languishing in our jails and in our prisons throughout the state for low-level marijuana arrests. It has been, unfortunately, the backbone of some of our most heinous applications of the law in terms of locking people up for something that now people will get rich from.
Well, speaking about getting rich, is this an opportunity to, if you will, remediate those injustices? I mean, you alluded to it. There are communities, that, especially in New York City, with stop and frisk and a whole host of other things that were going on, where people who had small amounts of cannabis.
We're already seeing that trickle down from the DA's office in the city. and now we're looking at some of the other major cities within our state doing the same, and then that trickles down to our law enforcement.
But should that be part of the overall legislation where records are expunged? But what do you do about folks who, frankly, who've been in prison for a while? How do you I read an article where in California they expunged all the records. All of a sudden, you had thousands of people being released from prison. And it's like, okay, what are we doing to support these folks so they have a successful transition?
Well, that's one component. The same thing with the state of Washington. The governor just expunged over 3,500 prisoners from their jails. I think people have to understand is that this is just not merely about the legalization of cannabis. This is about how do we integrate those who wish to get into the industry, who were in the industry when it was a dark market, illegal industry.
So how do you bring people from let's put it this way, the informal economy to the
more
legal
formal,
economy?
Well, obviously you set up parameters by which you have incubators, in which you have microloans, and you don't use those records against people, and maybe you might use that as a step up if they have the ability and the foresight to be a part of this industry.
So you're looking at this new industry as an exciting opportunity to reinvest in communities that have been harmed by the war.
Well, as you know, you served in the Assembly. It's very rare that you are able to create a new industry. And it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience for any legislator, whether you're talking about whatever jurisdiction.
So how do you make sure that the big conglomerates that are already buying up medical marijuana licenses, there's a story about a group up in Syracuse, they didn't even open up any medical marijuana, they sold their interest in their license for like $60 million.
Well, it is, so we do live in a free market, right? Yeah. So we can't negate people for integrating or wanting to be a part of this industry. But what we can do is set up parameters where it allows for people who are the moms and pops of the world, who are already doing business in other states and want to do business here, to be able to compete and to be able to compete against some of the major conglomerates that we see possibly coming into this industry.
That's interesting. So this is a really interesting session,
especially
when you talk about all the things like congestion pricing, but then when you think about there's a new industry that's going to come to life by virtue of state regulation, laws that this legislature is going to pass with the governor.
Yeah, well, and there's a number of issues that we have to, whether it's labor law enforcement, criminal justice reform, as we talked about, banking. These are all issues that we have to take into consideration. We're trying to move forward this bill, which we believe will probably be done within the budget.
You think so?
I think so, and the governor has indicated as such. We all have our three different versions of the bill, so we'll probably merge the three together and come up with a solution that everybody is kind of can work with.
That's going to be it's going to be an interesting 3 months.
Yes, it will be.
Now, this governor's packed more into a budget than most governors have in the past when it comes to legislating through the budget.
Correct.
That's a whole nother show we should do.
Yes.
But that means your work is going to be really cut out for you from day one, from the day that budget is reduced.
But it's work that's worth the effort because, like I said, the low-hanging fruit is the criminal justice package, and if we can get that pushed through within the MRTA, within the budget, I think it will be all worth it.
It'll be more than worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be frank, this as a member of the legislature is also a once-in-a-career opportunity to right some terrible injustices.
Correct. And it changed lives.
And change lives. Assemblyman, thanks so much for coming by.
Thanks a lot.
We really appreciate
it.
And have a great year.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this edition of Meet the Leaders. I'm Pat Halpin. We'll see you again soon.